Okay. Okay. Heinkein, we're learning today. We're going to learn about the dormitory of the Koyanim. We know that the Koyanim, there were 24 mishmaros, which means that each family of Koyanim came up once a year to serve in the base. I think there's 24 mishmaros means that every 2 weeks, 12 months, so every half a month there was a new mishmar. And of these 2 weeks, right, they were split also. So each family would have one day. Each kohen would have one day to serve. So where did they sleep? Those that were shaykh, obviously, to serving in the Beis Hamikdash, slept in a place called Beis Hamoikid. Well, there's a few mefarshim why it was called Beis Hamoikid. Moikid Meloshin Moikda, which means the fire. Not all days are masking that this fire, that it was called the fire Hashem because they took from this fire to the Mizbeach. That's one day. It says it was called Beis Hamoikid because from this room, from the fire in this room, they took to light the fire on the Mizbeach, Mitzvah Lavim and Hedyot. Another opinion is that they took it from the Beis Hanitzutz, Shana Nitzutz. There was also a fire, and that's where they took for Atzei Marach. And what was the fire in Beis Hamoikid was also for the Koyanim, because we know the Koyanim had to walk. The din is a Koyan has to walk barefoot. So there shouldn't be a chatzitza between him and the karka mishkan or a mikdash. If there's something choitzitz between his foot and the floor, it's as if he shechted not in the base of mikdash. And the apostles and the mela, they would walk barefoot. When you walk barefoot on stone and Yerushalayim is stone, it's very cold. So they would be able to come in and warm their feet by the fire. That's the fire Al Shem that was called moikid, Beis Hamoikid. And there was also down, what soon we'll see, there were 4 offices there. The sleeping space was alongside the wall. But downstairs there was a mikveh, and there was another fire there to dry off, as we'll see now. Yes. Beis HaMoikid, this house of the fire, kippah, it was round. The Rebbe's madgish, when the Rebbe's mitzayadis, that it wasn't like, you see all the kvarim, you see it's like a box. In the middle, there's a yarmulke on top. The Rebbe says, Beis HaMoikid, the whole thing was a kippah. It was a round room. Beis HaMoikid kippah, bayis gadol hoya. Big, shaloi be'erach to the other smaller offices. Mukaf roivdim shalevin, it was surrounded alongside the wall inside with boulders of stones. That they made it look like parenches, like bleachers. The zikne beis av yishenim sham, the skenim of the family that came up to do the avodah yishenim sham. Maftech azara biyadam, they had the keys. Now here biyadam doesn't mean kipshutay. It wasn't in their hands of the skenim, as we'll see later in the Mishnah exactly where the keys were. Biyadam means it was alpim. Everything was done according to them, under their control. Pirkei Kohuna, the young Kohanim, Pirkei Moshe, their Zakon started being pareach, line to Bartanora, that their beard is there starting to sprout. The young Kohanim, each kissed their ba'aretz, they would lay and they would put their clothing on the floor and they would lay on top of it. Now, where exactly were the keys? And also, one of the reasons why we're going to say this akdam with the next Mishnah, the whole Mishnah is going to be dedicated to where the keys were. There was a special place. There was a square on the floor with a hook. They picked up the square, and under it was a chain hanging the key. Wouldn't it make such a big? And when they would go to sleep, they would close it and lay down on top of it. Why did it make such a big deal about this key? And I'm going to tell you my understanding based on the Lashon of the Mishnah, that one of the ways of the Kiddushtoi was that the Kohanim were able to sleep inside. Not inside the Kodesh, like we'll soon see, there was something separating, because this room was half in the Kodesh and half in Chol. The border of the Azara, the wall of the Azara went through. Not the wall, but I'm saying the shetach of the, and therefore half of it was in Kodesh, half of it was in Chol. They only slept in the part that was Chol. However, the fact that Kohanim could sleep in something that's connected to the Azara was part of the Kiddushtoi. And therefore, very formally and very officially, they closed it and they put away the key and they slept inside. and it was locked. Everyone that was inside was locked inside. It was a schus. And the lashon that gives it away is Ben Levi Yoshan Leimi Bachutz. A Ben Levi had to sleep outside. Now, Batson, we don't find that the Leviim slept outside Bechlam. Why should they sleep on Harabayis? So the Hadgasha is that only the Kohanim were allowed to have that special VIP, so to speak. They speak Yidashta. These are the people that represent the Yidden in the Avodah. Only they were allowed to sleep inside, and that was formalized by the Maftech. You should just know that if you look in the Bartanura, you'll see that he changes the Girsa later in this Mishnah and says, Ben Levi Yoshev Loimei Bachutz. Ben Levi sits outside, and what does that represent? The fact that the reason why the Levim were Shemer Mibachutz was that they should be able to sit down also. In the Azar, you're not allowed to sit. But according to that Girsa, that's why the Levim were outside, but not allowed to be Yash. Okay. There was a square in the balata tile with the basis of kvuba. It had a ring, the shalshelis, and a chain. Shamaftaras ayetluba. Higias man on the ilo when it came the time to lock the room. Higbias a tabla, one coin. The coin that was the shamer. He opened this tabla and took out the keys. This up to Rash. Going to show you. Yeah, sure. Oh, I meant yeah. Sorry. I meant the one that's opening the doors. Actually, just another svara why they made such a big deal about this keys with a tavla and a whole thing is because the kohenim were very excited about this first that they had to lock this door. Stam, it wasn't the kohenim's avodah. Oh, very good. The etzem, the shoyanim were the Levim. They had the supposed to close the doors because this room was dedicated to the kohenim, the base of. So they gave the schus to the kohenim to close, and they were very excited about this, and that's why they made this whole procedure about the Levim. Yeah. So this was a chiddush that this was the kohenim, and the farmers they came out this whole big macharaika to show that it's under their control, and they covered it over. He took the keys off. We just discussed a minute ago that Bnei Levi Lav after the slept outside. The Hadgasha is Vikidashta that this is the Kohen's place. Because they came to serve, they were able to be inside. Gomer Melino Hefzer some Afteras. He finished locking it. Hefzer some Afteras the Shalshalas. He brought it back to the chain. As a table and Koima closed it back. Now so Yashin Allah, and he went to sleep by them. Ada carried back on them. If one of them had a mikra laila, became Tommy. Yoitze v'hoylach loy. But Masiba Elachas Tachas Abir. It goes out of the Azara through Masiba that goes under the Bira, means the whole complex, the whole base of Mikdash. It goes to Toivel. Oh, so we'll see. This is the Giyah. So he goes down. Ad Shemagia, Vanei is Dolkim Mekanik. Ad Shemagia LaBeis HaTfil. Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov Aimer. V'Masiba Elachas Tachas Achel Yoitze v'Hoylach LaBetal. He goes out, and by the he leaves Beis HaMoikid right away and goes under a tunnel that takes him out.
To the main gate, the gate from the Harabait. That is the gate in the Harabait?
Yeah, it's one of the gates on Harabait on Tzafon side, which was there. It was like
however, Lefid did first day, yeah.
Yeah. So what's the machlekes? What's the machlekes? Machlekes is like this. That's when we know that somebody's a tvul yoim. He's a tvul yoim. Be'atzan he toivel, but he needs Harav Shemesh. He needs the day to be over to become tired from this Chumas Keren. And according to Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov, according to the Tanakama, he goes down to the base of Tefillah and he comes back up. Why does he come back up? Because he's honest, they're locked in. According to him, there was no way. The Mesiba didn't go out. The Mesiba was just to go down to Taiva, but then he slept together with all the rest of the kind until the morning. He was an honest, even though the Atzim is not allowed to be there. This is Keneged Machna Leviyah, and a person that's a Tzvul Yom that needs Harav Shemesh has to be out of Machna Leviyah in the time of the Mishkan and in the time of the Beis Hamikdash with Nazal. But he's an Anos. According to Rabbi Yaakov, no, he has to leave right away, and he held that there's a Mesiba that went Tachas Abira all the way out to Tadi, and from there he went out. It is kedai to be mitzayin that we'll see that certain mechilas, generally mechilas loy niskatchu, all these tunnels underground were not considered kaddish, and therefore, like we'll see, actually two things: site above ground level and site underground level. Both of them were not niskadish, and we'll see, as we'll see later, the Lishkas Klei Shir was under Ezra's Koyanim, under Ezra's Yisrael, under the Mizbeach could even be. It's not Niskadish. However, and the same goes over here, the Mechila, even he wanted to leave the Shetach of Kodesh, so he went to this Mechila. But we'll soon see that this time it just happens. The Rebbe talks about the second Beis Hamikdash, and the Rebbe says that we have the Shitzer Ramban, that the Ikar of the Mikdash is to have a bias for the Orein. Tlikas Rambam and the Ramban. What's the Ikar of the Beis Hamikdash? It's in Hadronim al Rambam. What's the Iker? And the Rambam holds bias that's Muchan Lakar by Karbanis. That's the main thing in the Beis Hamikdash. The most Mechuvan, this is the most, actually, Bechlal, it's Yedua. The most Mechuvan that get placed in the Beis Hamikdash was the Mizbeach. It says they needed that Kabbalah. Bahar Raya, saying that's the place where Noach, when he came out of the Teva, and that's where Cain brought his carbon, and that's where Yitzchak, Yitzchak, and that's where Yaakov Avinu went and put his stone, his Avanan that became one. So, yeah, very miyuch.
Where he went to sleep.
Yeah, this is mamish a very mechuvindik place.
After the kach, you could say like in this the Mefrech is 32 by 32 amas. This is it.
This is it.
It's not the Kodesh Kodesh.
Yeah, even more than that, it says if you look at the picture of the Mizbeach, you'll see that the Yisoid doesn't go all around. The Yisoid is missing. Why is it missing? Because it says that Binyamin's the Avi Yitraf. So the Pash is like that the Shetach of the Mizbeach was Al Shem Binyamin, was Binyamin's. But what's Yitraf? Binyamin's Ava, but so Shver Aloshin on Karbonis. We know that Bilga Miriam Bas Bilga said as Alosh. So that's what the Gemara says that Shevet Binyamin was toited from Shevet Yehuda. That's the line where Shevet Binyamin his Shetach finishes and Shevet Yehuda takes that. And that's why it's Yitraf. He was toited from a different Shevet. It's mamish. He was toited part of the Beis Hamikdash in his Shevet. The answer was Shevet Yehuda. So Kum Tois that it's mamish meduik to the millimeter, like Mishnah or the Mizbeach.
Therefore, there was no Yisayid in Yehuda's Shevet.
In Yehuda's Shevet, no, only Binyamin's Shevet. In Binyamin's Shevet. B'chol what we see here is that this is according to Shitzer Ramban that the Iker is the Mizbeach. But other Shittas hold that the Iker of the Beis Hamikdash was there should be a Mishkan, v'shachanti v'soicham, and that goes not on the Mizbeach, that goes on the Oren. The Rebbe discusses this by Rufa. But according to that, Bayis Sheni wasn't even a Bayis. It doesn't have a shame Bayis if the Oren is not there. That's the Iker of the Bayis.
When it wasn't there.
When it wasn't there, Bayis Sheni.
By Shen, the whole world, right?
No, there's only Evan Ashtir, yeah.
Miknas by Slishan, so by Slishan.
So, yeah. So, was kommt da? But the Rebbe brings that the Rebbe's medayik that the mechilas that they planned under the karka for the Orein, they were mekadosh when they built the Beis Hamikdash lechatchila. And those mechilas were yenis kadosh. And therefore, when they have the Orein underground, but in the mechilas that was niskadosh, it's keilu. It's still a bias that it's Mekayim HaMiyur. This was a planned place, and therefore that station in this time, and it's still a bias Lashem. So I'm just pointing that out that there were mechilas. Most mechilas were not neskadish. Evidently, there were mechilas that were planned as and they were neskadish. Okay. So that we just went. Okay. Now we're going to discuss. We're going back and start discussing Harabayis, and we're going to discuss a little bit of measurements. And second, sorry. So, save it. Feel a little longer here. Good. Beautiful. Okay.
Ah,
Okay.
no,
This is Harabais. And we're going to learn about the psachim of Harabais. And Harabais was Chamesh Meres Amma, Chamesh Meres Amma. But the Aron, which was rectangular, wasn't stationed smack in the middle, unlike Bais Shlishi. Okay?
you say Harabais is the clo nicht the cloin, the Azor on the Harabais.
No. Now when we're talking about the Harabais, we're talking about on the top of the mountain, the whole they flattened.
There's another part of the Har which wasn't belonging to the
Right. Means they obviously took the top and flattened it more, and that was and they're surrounded by a big chayma, which we're going to discuss now how they got through this chayma. Harabais hayachamesh chamesh mes amal chamesh mes amal. Ruba min adorim. Most of the available space was on Durham side. This is where the houses were. Sheni loy min mizrach. And most of it was Durham. Second in command was Mizrach. And just to point it out, people that came in, I think we discussed this, but other people that came in sat in the all over here, like sitting and learning. And it was called, these two entrances are called Sharei Cholda, because Cholda Neviah sat, Mizaktas Cholda Neviah sat between these gates, and people came to ask her questions. This was the mocker. Obviously, Lishkas Agazis was over there, but that was just Sanhedrin Dud. Most of the Yidden just sat over here on Arabayas, and later,
they show a street that was used over there. On that street, you couldn't buy things that you need for the Beis Hamikdash. Sheeps.
So that street
Change money. People came from all over.
Right.
Change money, nesochim, wine. Now you have to cook shlomim, all things that you need for the woods.
So the emphasis that those stores that you're referring to is off Harabais. The Koisel Maravi is off the wall of Harabais, not on the wall of the Azar. And that's good.
On the other side of
on the other side, not on the other side of the Harabais. The Koisel Maravi is the wall of the Ma'ariv wall of Harabais, not of the Azar. Mm-hmm. And the stores that they found is something called Kesher the Rubinson. They found a very big archway and steps to go in to over here, and they found over here. I was there. They found besides finding a whole bunch of blisterois, these round stones that were slingshotted by the Romans and knocked down. They found a cornerstone that's on the corner. It's in the Opel. Near the Kaisel, you go to the excavations. There's a cornerstone where they found the kohen they used to blow before Shabbos. It was carved in that here stands the kohen that blows for the tzkiyas before Shabbos to remind them that Shabbos is coming in. And evidently that stone was so heavy and it fell from so high that it went very, very low. And things fell on top of it, and it stayed. And they managed to dug it out. Over there is also very interesting things. They found many mikvois, of mikvois. And what's beautiful about these mikvois is you have a mikveh going in, and then there's a box. But in the middle, there's a tall wall, relatively tall. I went into it, to go in. And it's this big, the wall. Why? The tmeim coming from one side, and the toilim going from the other side. Because if they touch each other, they have to go back into the table. So there was like a one way. So anyway, back there. So Ruba min Adarim, because the Yidden lived in Durham side, and over here they sat. There's a whole. We mentioned this. The Gemara discusses whether there's me'ilah. There's a few things that there's no me'ilah. There's no me'ilah b'mara. Look at the beauty of the Beis Hamikdash, right? It says Mishloira binyan hurdus loiran binyan amiyama. You're allowed to look at the beauty. It says that he built it from marble that looked like Gali Ayam, from the way the sun. And there's no Me'ila Bereach. They smell the Ketayah still Yerichas. It's not called being moil. One of the shadows of the Gemara is their Me'ilah Bitzel. If you're sitting in the shop in the shadow of the yeah, why? Because Yidden would sit over here, and imagine starts afternoon, and you're sitting in the beautiful breeze. And you're sitting in the shade of the heichal. Is that called enjoying the heichal or moil? And the answer is no, but it's also very telling that that's where Yidden would sit. Then the sheni loy was mina mizrach because this was the main entrance. The main entrance for a person we discussed before. There's an entrance for Kachik Kadashim, Kachim Kalin, for Talishka Sachesames, but most of the people didn't come with a carbon. That means a lot of people brought carbonas. Everybody had to be, or the regular had to bring 2-3 carbonas, but they didn't just go once. They went many times to Beis Hamikdash, and most of the people came to watch the Avodah. And to watch the Avodah, the main entrance was in its beauty when you come in from Mishtachva, you come through the Shar HaMizrach. So Sheni Loi, which was the main entrance, the main place where they would just sit, and by Sheni they built the boys to be under not to get wet from the rain. But the Sheni Loi was Min HaMizrach. And Shlishi Loi Min HaTzafain was much quieter. We'll just finish this Mishnah. And was even quieter, and we just quoted, if you were with us before, the Shar Tadi, because it was a secret door. It means pretty much people didn't use it for regular purposes, and that's why, Bethel, when you don't want people to of somewhere, you make it very hard to go through. And therefore, we'll see that mi'utay min ha'mayriv, because they didn't want anybody drinks us too close to the Kodesh HaKadoshim. They made it mamish a passageway, and even that was called Shara Kipoinus. The door over there was for a flower garden, when they put a flower garden. So you don't step there for too long, you just continue walking. Mashenkin and Tzafin side was, and Zion Durham side was full of space. Malkaim Shahoyer Roiv Midase, wherever there was more space, Sham Hoyer Roiv Tashmisha, that was the most usage, and